Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad you're here this morning. We are in the Toolshed. It's Thursday, so all things training. We're going to talk to our guest, but today we're thankful for you. We're thankful for our friends at Schedule Engine that made this possible, and of course the wonderful team at Emerson who sponsored this episode. My guest, as always on Thursday for all things training and expert related. Brian, how are you, buddy?
Hey, nice to see you. Thanks for having me back.
You're becoming a regular.
Well, thanks for not locking the doors.
That's fine. I think when you asked for your parking spot, I don't know. Right. Jerry got in a huff. So, no, it's great to have you here. You know, Jerry and I talk often about, all the people that have shared their experience with us, and that's all we do, right? We're just drain pipes. Comes in, goes out, and we're just fortunate to have friends that are much smarter. So we appreciate you being here and just coming along with this journey in the Toolshed about training, whether it's individual, whether it's whether you're responsible for a team for the first time, you've been doing it for 20 years, you're facing new challenges. It's just a lot, and training's tough.
Well, yeah, it doesn't just happen.
Right.
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 I mean, there has to be some thought into it. It's not we're going to have a training culture today.
I love it. This morning we're going to talk about training for a new hire. Let's say you win the blue collar lottery, and all of a sudden you get someone with a clean driver's license, good work ethic, and a watch, and they show up. Right. Like, I get it. The unicorn has arrived. I was reminded, I had a friend talk about like the way we have historically welcomed people into a company or even the trades. And he talked about how it was kind of like the zoo, Traditionally, there's an interview and somebody says, oh, well, come on by Monday at 8 and we'll pick you up in the warehouse. And, as soon as he said that, the phone rang and he forgot to tell anybody. So this poor new hire shows up and he walks into the warehouse, and it's like he feels like he just fell in that silverback gorilla pit of the zoo, and they're just sort of like standing there trying not to make eye contact with the alpha in the room. But I think there's a lot of people that are like, yep, sounds like my first day, and somebody's like, oh, that's right, Steve, what are you doing today? All right, go with Steve. You believe that people should have a plan?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we look back over the last couple of weeks, and we talked about a number of different things, and last week's was more on recruiting.
Yeah.
Right? Well, if you have a recruiting plan, right? We talked about there's no secret pool of qualified technicians waiting to be hired, right?
Right.
So you're going to have to recruit. You're going to have to be able to hire the attitude and train the aptitude.
Yep.
Well, that recruiting requires a plan. Well, the next logical step is taking that recruiting plan and turn it into a training plan. How are we going to be efficient?
Right.
What is going to be, if I'm running a team and I'm a service manager, look, I'm going to want this new hire in a truck by himself as soon as possible.
Right.
I don't want to take 12 months if I can do it in 6 months.
Right.
And that requires a plan.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds obvious, and I think everybody has the best intentions, but our friend Aaron always says things that start well end well, and I think there's something to this. Now, as we're talking about it, it's common sense. I think Franklin said, common sense is rarely common practice. It can be a little overwhelming when you think coming up with a training plan. What are the basics? What are like just the 101? What's a good way to think about a plan? How do we demystify that? Any tips?
Well, the first thing you need to do is establish your learning objective, or what your training outcome is going to be. I mean, what and who are you building? Are you building a helper? Are you building a service tech? Are you building an installer?
Okay.
And if you understand where you want them to be, you just take a step back. How do I get there?
Okay, so if we're taking notes, it's really as simple as maybe look at the positions in your company, decide what a good one is. I mean, you're doing that every day in your head, right? So you've got your different positions, whatever they are, and that's the sort of finish line. And as Covey says, start with the end in mind and just sort of reverse engineer. There's probably a number of calls you need to run in a day, skill sets, different things like that. Is there any you were talking about scaffolding and training involved in scaffolding. Why don't you unpack that for us? We were talking earlier.
So probably the thing that's going to lead to the best training programs or platforms. They start with early success. Help your technician find early success. Help them find that enthusiasm and that confidence to say, I can advance, right? And then you need that plan to say, okay, what is that first level that we need to train? We need to teach. What does this person need to know to do, step one in their career advancement?
Got it.
All right, now we've built that level.
Right.
Now, okay, what is the next step we want to get to? Let's build another scaffold, and we're going to bring the skills up to that scaffold. So that's really the way we're going to approach it.
And then once the learning's there, the scaffolding's gone, and the solid structure remains. I really like that analogy. I think you said a couple of things, and why this might be so important. We talk a lot about new hires. Well, look, we've all been in the trades long enough, and in today's connected world, back when dinosaurs were around and I was running service calls, when you left a company, there wasn't this social media and stuff. And so, if you were lucky enough, and of course, dudes don't ever call anybody, right? Nobody had your phone number, and you would just leave, and maybe you'd meet at the supply house or whatever. But today, we know exactly what's happening. That person's leaving, and then, that first week, hey, how is it over there? Right? Because we're all connected, and there's only so many of us. So what I hear you saying, and what I think of is, if I win the unicorn lottery and I've got someone show up, I might bend over backwards to make sure that first day and that first week is really good.
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
I couldn't agree more. Right. And I think maybe what we can do better as an industry, and you and I had a conversation about it, and I think you talked to, around the dumpster type thing, is change that conversation. Is instead of this new hire saying, I showed up and nobody even knew I was showing up, said, holy crow, they were ready, I already feel like I'm advancing.
Yeah. It's sort of like having a guest at your house. If they show up and they're like, hey, welcome, we're so glad you're here. I mean, it sounds common sense. And one of the things that Jerry and I talk a lot about is demystifying like training plans and gaps analysis. It's really like, look, what does this person need to do the job, right? The old days it was, you had to learn how to fill out a carbon copy pad. That's for your kids, that CC line on the email. That's what that means. Great tip for Scrabble. But you had this carbon copy, and if you could fill out a work order and you had your own tools, hey, you got your own truck by the end of the week, right? And it's different now. So we can identify early. And something else you said is give them a taste of success early on in that process. Why is that important?
I don't know. Imagine anything you do, and you go out and you fail and you fail and you fail, and everything is a challenge. That just weighs on you. Right now, if I have some small successes, no matter how minor they are, you get your little shot of dopamine and everything feels good, and oh yeah, I want to go back, I want to get that again, right? And so we find those shots of dopamine. How do we feed those? How do we feed the enthusiasm that you and I have for training? But how do we spread that through everybody kind of driving to advancement?
I love it. So some of us are on LinkedIn, and I get pretty tired of you see a lot of these tech companies or these offices, and it's like, oh, great first day, and it's a potted plant, and they've got the Patagonia sweater and the name tag and the hashtag blessed, and and I compare that. Why can't that be? And I think if we're honest as an industry, like you said, we need to do better, right? Like if you're an individual contributor, there's some responsibility, and then if you're the organization that person is coming to, like, we can do better, we can, right? And I think hopefully that's some of the message I'm getting this morning. Now let's flip that and say, I'm the unicorn. I show up. How do I? Maybe I go to that place, and it's a great place. The people are good, but like, look, this, they don't onboard that many people, and so it's a bit of a struggle. How can I work with my organization to make sure that my first week, first month, like, what are some of the tools there? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we go back to maybe the first week I was here, and you and I talked about personal responsibility, right?
Okay.
I mean, I have to go into a new job and say, here are my goals.
Right
I'm not waiting for the company to tell me my goals. I'm going to have my goals.
Right.
And my job is to advocate for myself and say, hey, I want to be a service manager in the next 3 years.
Right.
What do I need to do to get there?
I love it, and it's right up our street. And Jerry talks about like being able to communicate. Hopefully, you talked about it in the interview process, and you're just being consistent, and then you're putting the work in. You're being humble, and you're learning. One of the things that Jerry and I were talking about this conversation, and he talked about look for opportunities to volunteer. Mm-hmm. And if you're the new person and they don't have a training program, you can bring something to the table. You can, with all humility, say, hey, you know what? I kind of have a passion for this, and I'm happy to do that. It's Jerry's idea, so I'm taking credit for that. What do you think about that?
Well, some people are born for it, right?
Yeah.
Some people are performers. Some people love that experience.
I have no idea what you're talking about, and quite frankly, I feel attacked.
And some people don't. I mean, some of the best technicians in the industry are the worst trainers in the industry.
That is so. I think that's one of the mistakes I see organizations make a lot, and we'll maybe talk about that next week. Is how to, like, as part of career pathing. I think there's some stuff we can unpack there as to who to buddy people up. So we've got a new hire, and as I recap the conversation this morning, have a plan. We talk about champions and championship teams, and Jerry says this is the huddle, but the game's out there, and so maybe pause the episode this morning, write down, start with a person. Like if there's someone on your team that's doing a job, say, be like Joe. And it's really that simple. And then just make a list of all the things Joe does well. Good average ticket, great reviews, technically competent. And just start there and then unpack as you go. And I learned a tip from a friend along this line. He says, when you get that first hire and you don't have a plan, get that person, bring them in, and Friday afternoon at the end of the first week, just have them write down everything that was good about the week. And then by the time that person's done, you've got the start of a training plan. So have a plan, be prepared, build the scaffolding. When you get level 1, start thinking about level 2. And then on the flip side, you said if you're that person, advocate, talk to your team, and make them aware that you'd love to help.
Yeah, the best outcomes are going to come through communication and collaboration, right? Me as a technician, my goals,
yep.
I need to communicate that to the company.
Yep.
And the company needs to hear that and recognize that and see if we can find what that perfect path is for me.
Love it. I know one of the things that I see a lot in the people coming into trades today, and it gives me encouragement, is the way they connect with each other, talking about digital. They connect with each other, they encourage one another, and they want to help that rising tide. So a ton of great stuff. We could probably park here, and maybe we'll do a part 2. There's just some simple nuggets that we've shared today. So hopefully you're thinking through that. Don't be the zoo, right? Like, don't let your organization be that gorilla pit, because people have choices today. And I think you've helped us steer the conversation to some really good stuff this morning. And again, we're glad you're here. Listen, tons to cover, but we're so glad you're here. We're here with you. We've got a couple. You're coming back, right?
Hey, if you'll have me.
We're going to help you continue to flesh out this journey. There's so much that we can share. We're grateful for these Thursdays. We're grateful for Schedule Engine and making this possible. And of course, the incredible team at Emerson that has so many great resources. Check them out online. They've got tons of apps, and they're such good training partners. Our friend Don Gillis, Trevor Matthews, there's people in your industry, in your trade, that are more than willing to help you get to where you need to go. All kinds of tools, but we're bringing them together here at the Toolshed, the place you come for every job to get just a little bit easier. And it starts with you. And as my friend Jerry says, be good, do good, and we will see you out there. Thanks.